Radio MD. RadioMD.com. Hear it from the doctor with expert guests from the American Academy of Pediatrics. It's Healthy Children. Now, our favorite mom, Melanie Cole, MS.
Welcome to Healthy Children, where our expert guests are provided by the American Academy of Pediatrics. I'm Melanie Cole, and as we're talking about summer, and all these parents, we're all excited to do things with our kids and even meet up with our friends and family that we haven't gotten to do that for quite a long time, but with the CDC's new mask guidance. It seems harder to imagine our kids that are under 12 and what can we do with them safely. I mean, there are still fears of COVID and variants. So what's a parent to do and what are we supposed to know? Joining me is Dr. Lauren Crosby. She's a nationally recognized parent expert and pediatrician and spokesperson for the American Academy of Pediatrics. Dr. Crosby, it's a pleasure to have you with us. So as I said in the intro, we're in full swing now, and we all want to start going to our beaches and parks and seeing our friends. What are, as of now, the current recommendations as to activities that we can do? Some guiding principles, as it were, to keep in mind.
Right. I think, well, it does depend on the situation, vaccinated versus unvaccinated. And that's true everywhere you read, whether it's your county health department or the CDC. So you do want to do your homework so you know what your local guidelines are in your area, as well as if you do have a destination, what do they require where you are going. So it is very different depending where you live. But if you're vaccinated, it's a lot better. You have a lot more freedom overall. Basically, it depends. I wish I didn't have to say that because that makes it confusing, but we can go through different scenarios even.
Well, I think that's a great idea for us because there are so many. But first, just tell us, once we've gotten the vaccine and now they approved it for, above 12. So the 12 to 17-year-olds can get this now. And what do we want to know about how long after the vaccine? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 4 weeks? After we've gotten our second dose, do we still need to follow those safety protocols? For me personally, I'll just tell you, Dr. Crosby, I'm going to keep masking because while I caught a cold, I realized that, not everybody is vaccinated and I'm just going to wear a mask because.
Right. And I think a lot of people are choosing to do that. With maybe half the country vaccinated, there's still a lot of people that are not. And so, first of all, the vaccine. So depending which one you got, so there are the 2-dose vaccines, right, from either Pfizer or Moderna. 2 weeks after your second dose, you're considered fully vaccinated. If you got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, that's a 1-dose vaccine. So 2 weeks from that single dose, you are considered fully vaccinated. So, various safety protocols are still in effect, though, even for the fully vaccinated. So, yes, you can pretty much be unmasked and you can travel and you don't need to really worry. There are cases of people vaccinated getting COVID, but they don't get severe disease. It's mild. So the vaccine does really, really work. But there's cases where you still will be required to mask. For instance, public transportation will require it. And a lot of schools and businesses still have mask mandates in effect. So you do want to check where you're going. But generally, public transportation is going to require it for a while, I think. But in general, if you are someone who's vaccinated, you can go in someplace and you don't have to wear a mask here, in California, where I am. It's only if you're unvaccinated, you're supposed to mask if you're indoors. So there's definitely a lifting of these restrictions. So that's good. There's still mask requirements. I am going to also mask if I go into any place crowded still. So I think a lot of people are doing that.
A lot of people are, and it is a little confusing when you see people without masks to wonder if they are somebody who is anti-mask and not vaccinated versus the people who are vaccinated. So I think that's a different kind of a gray area and one reason why I'm going to keep masking. But
Agreed.
Tell us a little bit about our 12 and under, because that's a scary thing for parents. There are kids that are getting it, and this Delta variant is also scary. So if our kids are under 12, then what are we doing?
So if you have families of kids under 12, you still need to kind of really act like you're in COVID still, and that's sad to say. But and again, it does depend where you live. For here in California, even they're saying kids that are unvaccinated, if they're outdoors playing with others, they're saying that they do not need to mask unless they really are going to be sitting close together for very long periods of time. So that makes it very difficult, for parents. So a lot of families are like, you know what, we're going to just have our kids mask so we don't have to worry about it. Because I have found, and we talked about this at my office yesterday, we're seeing a lot of people traveling now, and they go to places that might be hot spots, and then their kid comes back and comes to camp. So you really want to make sure that you know who you're around and that you feel comfortable. Some kids choose mental health versus masking. Like if it's, I want them to go to this camp, if they get it, they get it. Some parents are choosing that. I've had those discussions. Whereas a lot of parents are like, they're not requiring masks, but my kid is good with a mask. They're used to a mask. They're going to wear a mask. So, I tell parents, if you're going out with your kids, even though you're vaccinated, set a good example. Wear your mask anyway, then they'll feel good. They'll feel normal. They won't feel like, oh, we have to mask because, and you don't. And it sets a good example if the parents do. So it's not quite, it's not as easy until those kids can get a vaccine. You have to be careful.
Well, we do. And, in Asian countries, they've been masking for years.
Yes.
And while it's because of air pollution, they don't seem to mind. And they don't fight it the way that we have. It's become very politicized. And for me, both my kids, 18 and 21, they're like, it's not a big deal. They'll just wear those masks when they're going out with their friends now, just because it's become comfortable. And besides, for our older folks, it hides a multitude of sins, really.
Right.
Let's be honest. I got no problem with the masks. But now,
that's true.
As we've learned about surfaces, Dr. Crosby, and people are traveling, as you say, taking planes and you driving across country. Are we still concerned about sanitizing things down, planes, wiping the seats down, any of that stuff?
I have to say that they say overall transmission from surfaces is quite low because that envelope of that virus does degrade pretty quickly when it's in contact with cleaning agents. But if you are in an area where there's a high prevalence rate of very, very sick people, and let's say they were right there and then you're right there and it's not a place you know about or have control, I still tell people to wipe down because the risk is low in an area where there's low transmission rates. But if you're in an area that's a super hot spot, then it is worth still wiping your surfaces down. And I think a lot of people are just going to have that habit now anyway because they're like, you know what, why not? I don't need to get the flu. I don't need to get a cold. I'll just wipe down the knobs and the handles and sanitize my hands a lot. But there's not a lot of data on true transmission from surfaces. So bottom line, probably low risk, theoretical risk. Use your wipes on your airplane trays and knobs and things you touch and sanitize your hands just to be safe.
And while we're talking about general travel and plane etiquette and any, adult knows if you've had a kid behind you kicking your seat or now I am somebody who a crying baby does not bother me because it's hurting their little ears. It doesn't upset me at all. And I understand people traveling with their babies and babies can get away with anything. But when they're a little bit older, just in my world, I love babies. But when they're a little bit older, what do you want parents to know about traveling with their kids and making sure that their kids are kept occupied and that they're not annoying everybody?
Right, absolutely. So it is good to plan ahead. It is good to even read books and stories about airplanes. And also, if you're someone who manners are important and you've always had, parents used to say to me, oh, I loved having your son over. He's so polite. He always says thank you. He always says please. So start early with your kids with good manners, or, if you notice something's bothering someone, apologize. Let's say they're kicking the seat. They don't realize. Apologize. But practice ahead. Remember, we keep our hands, arms, legs to ourselves on the airplane, but keep the kids busy. Have games, have snacks with you, old toys that, they love, plus new things they've never seen before to keep them really interested. And also, you know what? Obviously, we like to limit screens for kids, screen time, but this is the time you don't need to limit the screens. Keep your kids busy. Mine would watch movies. I did have like a headphone splitter so they could watch the same movie together, which was enjoyment. Which
I did the
my
same
two
thing.
boys enjoyed. right? So I kept them busy with treats and, a little bribery can go a long way on an airplane, and that is okay. It's fine. But books and toys and snacks and movies really tend to work quite well.
Well, I think it was a great point that you made about surprise things because I used to get
Mhm.
those Mad Libs for my kids. And even though
Mhm.
there are phones and there are all these things, they would giggle and laugh, and it was something
Mhm.
different and new. I mean, back when we were little, right? We went through those books in 10
Mhm.
seconds, but they had fun with them. So, parents,
I
listen to
did.
what Dr. Crosby's saying and think out of the box a little bit. It just doesn't have to be TikTok and Instagram and everything else.
Right.
There are
Yep.
other things that you can do that don't involve electronics at all that
It's
really
so
can
true.
interest the kids and keep them occupied, right?
Yeah, like I Spy was a favorite.
It was. I mean, in driving as well. But I
Yes.
mean, if they're annoying while you're
Mhm.
driving, at least you're just only in your own car. But
Mhm.
what about things like cruises? Now, I mean, the cruise industry suffered pretty hard.
Yes.
They're opening back up.
Yes.
I don't know if they're requiring vaccine
Mhm.
passports or any of those things. What about cruises? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not rushing to a cruise anytime soon.
Right, right. Well, the CDC
That's
right
just
now is
me,
saying
though.
people who are not, yeah, no, I'm not either, but the CDC recommends people who are not fully vaccinated should avoid cruise ships until they're all fully vaccinated. So there are some variations on the rules, like some may also require a negative test and being vaccinated before you can go on. So you got to check the details. Like I read about celebrity cruises, they require vaccinations for age 16 and up, but for 12 and under, and ages 12 and under can't. But 12 and up, they're going to require them by August, even for 12-year-olds and up. And Disney cruises in the U.S. are probably going to come back in August and require vaccinations. Right now, they're saying 18 and up and testing for under 18s. But to me, that still sounds a little risky. So let's see what the guidelines are by then. And maybe a lot more people will be vaccinated by then so we can get that industry back and do those fun things. But you got to, again, each cruise has their own standards. So, vaccination is the best way for everyone to get through this and for everyone to get better. I mean, we had 3 positive COVIDs in the past week since the California mask mandate went down.
Wow.
It was lifted, and we hadn't had any in a while. So we're starting to get concerned that in those unvaccinated, it's all in kids who are too young to get vaccinated. So it's definitely a concern. That's why people need to mask and still sanitize.
Well, while we're talking about
Yeah.
the under 12s, do you as a pediatrician do you envision that the vaccine will be available to them? And if it
Mhm.
is, would it be better for us to do that at our pediatrician's office? I mean, if it was me and my kids were still that
Mhm.
young, I would definitely want my pediatrician to do the
Yeah.
vaccine rather than a pharmacy.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, we pediatricians are the vaccine
Well,
experts.
then it's part of the medical home and in their
Right.
records, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, well, you are, right?
Yes.
That's what you've been
Yes.
doing since they were day one.
That is what we do. It's like, yes, like we are the people to do that. And we want to do that. So, of course, that would be great. Not every office is going to be able to, will have the storage capability for the vaccines, or depending on the shipments, we don't want any to go to waste. So, if it's a small office and a lot come, you don't want to waste stuff. So, there will be certain logistics. But in general, I think it would be great if it can be done there. We've had a lot of pharmacies that are local ones that a lot of families know in our town here, and they've been giving them, and the families have been happy. They made it fun for the teenagers. They had balloons and they had music, and it was really cute. So definitely get it wherever you can when it's available. We are thinking 3 to 6 months for kids, and the breakdown isn't clear yet. Is it going to be 9 to 12? Is it going to be 6 to 12-year-olds? So they're still working that out. They're working out the dosing as well. So and still testing, but I think it'll be a good thing when it happens.
I agree. As we wrap up, what are some of the most important points and bits of advice that you want to give parents listening about traveling in the summer, getting together with family members, even getting to see our older family members we didn't get to see for a while,
Mhm.
kids that are under 12 that are not vaccinated yet? What do you kind of put it all together for us in a nice, neat little package?
Yeah, I would say that I want kids to have a summer. I want families to get together, and there are fun things that families can do. So, if it's one household, even though the kids aren't vaccinated, those unvaccinated kids can be around vaccinated family members. So at least now we can have other family members that are vaccinated around, even if our little kids can't be vaccinated. That is safe. We don't expect transmission back and forth in that type of situation. And there are trips that people can do. So they can do road trips and go to national parks and go to the beaches and go camping and do things that, are fun, but you just, may have to tag a mask along if you're going to be in some areas that are a little bit crowded. But sports are fun. Get outside, hike, walk, bike, tennis, all of these things are good things. So it's so good for the mind to get outdoors. It's so good for the mind to exercise and your general health. So get outside, do things, and just, bear in mind that we're not quite done with the pandemic yet.
We certainly are not, and this is great advice. And so we have to just really, as Dr. Crosby said, keep checking in with the CDC website and your local guidelines and your local health department to find out wherever you're going what their recommendations and guidelines are as well. But get out there with your kids and mask up if that's what you feel you want to do, and keep us all safe, because we're going to get through this, and we're seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, right? We really are. So taking her advice is the best. And thank you so much, Dr. Crosby, for joining us today. You're listening to Healthy Children, where all of our expert guests are provided by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the gold standard in pediatricians. I don't know about you parents, but I love my pediatrician, and my kids are almost aging out of it. And I am going to be bummed because our pediatricians are really doing the tough work of helping us to raise our kids safely. And that's what it's all about. So share this show with your friends and your family on your social channels, because we are learning from the experts at the AAP together. I'm Melanie Cole for Radio MD. You can listen on Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Podcast, everywhere that podcasts are played. But we, of course, want you to listen at radiomd.com. So for Radio MD, Healthy Children, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, I'm Melanie Cole. Stay well.